What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here for another video. Today is going to be my playoff predictor video, taking a look at this week's roundup of games, how they turned out, and ultimately how I think the rest of the season will go. And we'll take a look at the Dolphins' path to playoffs, like we have been the past couple weeks. Real quick though, before I get into it, I just want to say that I'm actually gonna use a different one today. I've been using which one have I been using? I've been using just this like generic NFL playoff predictor that I found online. And I think the site does like all sports, so you can do all the different sports. You get playoffs for all the sports. But I'm actually gonna do the ESPN one today because I was watching Dan Mitchell. I watch a lot of football content, particularly during the season, obviously. But like, I watch a lot of football content, like a lot of the mainstream shows. I watch a lot of the different Dolphins shows. And so on and so forth. And then I do like the AFC East roundtable, and I like the guys on there. I watch some of Dan Mitchell's stuff, and I was watching one of his shows. I was watching his playoff show, which I found to be interesting. Because just real quick to note on that, basically he's saying that the Bills have to win out. And I get it, I get it. This is what, you do as a fan base. But sorry, Dan, hate to break it to you, but the Bills are going to lose to the Chiefs out of their bye. The Dolphins are not going to lose another game except for maybe the Baltimore Ravens. I definitely think that we're going to beat, the Commanders and the Titans and the Jets. I think those are, look, as a player and a coach, you can't overlook teams. As a fan, you can do that all day. So I think they're going to easily beat the next three teams. We'll be 11-3 before we even get to the hard stretch of our schedule. I think we will have the division wrapped up by Christmas, because I do think that the Bills will lose to the Chiefs. They might lose to the Cowboys. I don't know. We'll see. That one's kind of up in the air, but that's a home game for the Bills, so maybe they can pull that one out. Their offense is looking better, with some of the changes that they've made. So, but their defense is absolutely decimated, and they just keep getting more and more injured every week. So it's unfortunate for them. You never want to see that, but that's the reality. And I just don't think they're going to be able to win enough games. I don't think they're going to be able to win out. I mean, the next two games are super tough. KC and Arrowhead, and then the Cowboys, back at home for the Bills. But then they also have to play the Chargers, and then they have to play us at the end of the year down in Miami. I don't think, they're going to win that game. I think we're going to win that game. I think we're going to get split with them and get our revenge, for earlier on in the season. We'll go 5-1 in the division. Anyway, it was just interesting because, I get it. That's what, especially as content creators, that's what we do and all that stuff. So, but it's just funny because, and I do like seeing, because like I said, I do watch some of those other guys' content and stuff as part of the stuff that I generally watch. But like, it's just fun to see. And it's especially fun because the Dolphins are not the team that's dysfunctional in this division anymore, and it's lovely. Anyway, so, but the main thing is when I was watching his video, he uses the ESPN playoff machine. So, but anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. So, as you can see, I've got the ESPN playoff machine. And so there are some differences. Real quick, let's just note that in this one, so this is week 12 and it has the current games. Obviously, you can look at the current, this past week of games, so we can still review that. I can't go any further back though than week 12, which is kind of unfortunate. The other one I use, you can go all the way back. Not that it matters because those games are, set in stone anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But, if I wanted to go back and look at something that happened earlier on the season, I wouldn't be able to. It also doesn't let you go past the week 18 games, and it doesn't let you go into the playoffs. This is just showing you what the current situation is, and then you can obviously go through the rest of the remaining season, but it does have this, which is cool. It does tell you you can bring up the tiebreakers and stuff. So I'm giving it a giving it a go, and I do like the layout of it actually a little better. And then you scroll down a little bit more, and here are the divisions, the division standings as it is, and then obviously the teams that are currently in the playoffs. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get into it. So real quick, we'll take a look at what happened this past week. So obviously, Green Bay got the win over Detroit, which was interesting. That was obviously an upset, one of the upsets of the week. Dropping them to 8-3. The Cowboys get their win over the Commanders. That was as expected, as was the Niners over the Seahawks. Those two games were as expected. Both of those teams now 8-3, the Niners and the Cowboys. And obviously this is the current seeding as it stands today. Dolphins obviously get their win over the Jets. Ended up being a blowout win. We're now 8-3 as well. Steelers get the win over the Bengals. That's not as much of an upset as it would have been had the Bengals had Joe Burrow in the game. I would have expected Joe Burrow to win, but I think in my last video I said that that was kind of a toss-up game. You know, either way could win, but they did get the upset, at least so far as that the Bengals were at home. Jags do get the win over the Texans. You know, that one could have gone either way to me. And the Texans, man, they were so close. I was rooting for the Texans because, you know, I wanted to drop the Jags to 7-4 instead of 8-3 because that would put us ahead of them in the standings. That didn't happen, but it is what it is. Colts get their win over the Bucks. Falcons over the Saints. Giants over the Patriots. I mean, that was ridiculous. Honestly, bro, that kick at the end to tie the game for the Patriots, it was a chip shot field goal. There was no way that the dude should have missed. I don't know, bro. I think you could... I mean, I think you would have a fair argument to say that that kick was missed on purpose. But anyway, I digress. The Titans, they get their win over the Panthers. Not really a surprise there. LA beats the Cardinals. Broncos end up beating the Browns. That was good, though. We did like to see that. That helped us because that dropped the Browns to 7-4 and keeps them behind us, so less people to compete. Because right now, what I'm going for is that #1 seed. I expect the Dolphins at this point in the season. I absolutely expect the Dolphins to win the division. And in fact, again, and you know, sorry to Dan, but I expect the Bills are going to lose to the Chiefs next week because they're on their bye this week. And I expect the Dolphins to win their next 3 games. So if those things happen, then I would expect the Dolphins to have the division wrapped up by Christmas. So, which would be fucking awesome for us Dolphins fans. Anyway, so Chiefs unfortunately do get their win over the Raiders. That one looked hopeful for Dolphins fans to start because the Raiders went up 14-0, but then they ended up losing 31-17. So, you know, not great there. And look, you know, the Chiefs definitely, they broke their drought of having 0 points in the second half, and they definitely looked better on offense. I still think they have a lot of problems. I'm not super scared of the Chiefs even still, but, you know, they are obviously going to be one of the top players that is going to have us fighting for that #1 seed. And since they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over us, we actually have to have a better overall record. We just need to have one more game in the win column than they do at the end of the season. But it's going to be tough because they actually have a pretty easy schedule down the stretch, and the Dolphins do have some tough games, and it likely would require the Dolphins to win out. So anyway, the Eagles get the win over the Bills, which we obviously love to see. That was expected. The Ravens beat the Chargers, and the Bears beat the Vikings. So that's the slate of games for Week 12. That's how it all turned out. Let's go ahead now and go into Week 13. Let's see. It also doesn't show... It doesn't show you here which teams are on bye like the other one does. So, you know, there are some differences, but, you know, we'll go ahead and take a look at it. Through here and see how it is, because I do like a lot of this and because, you know, being able to look at the tiebreakers too, I think is really cool. Yeah. Anyway, so let's go ahead. So let's see. I mean, I would expect the Cowboys to get the win over the Seahawks. I mean, the Patriots, I think, are clearly tanking, even though I mean, it's weird though. This is a weird game, and it is going to be interesting because I think at this point the Patriots are clearly tanking. Even though, yes, they suck and they don't necessarily need to tank, I think that they are actually trying to fucking tank. At least from an organizational perspective. But the Chargers, man, they find ways to lose. Although I think that they will end up getting that win. I'll take the Steelers over the... I would prefer the Cardinals to win that game. Because obviously that, you know, keeps them... I mean, it technically would have them alive for the #1 seed. Although I don't think... You know, especially tiebreakers and stuff. I don't think you really got to worry about that. We'll go ahead and give that one to the Colts. I mean, the Broncos are doing good things, but I'm going to take the Texans. I think they'll have a bounce back game, especially with that one being at home. Lions should beat the Saints. I mean, this one's tough. But the Falcons right now are in the playoffs. So, and their defense for the Jets is wearing down. The offense is just putrid. I'll take the Falcons over the Jets. Obviously, I think the Dolphins are going to win over the Commanders. The Panthers are just absolutely bad. They just fired Frank Reich too. And so we'll take that. I am going to take the Niners over the Eagles in the upset just because I think that game could go either way. It is going to be an interesting matchup. The Eagles haven't exactly looked great all year long, even though they still find ways to win. I think that they're going to finally drop one. It'll be to the Niners here. I think the Browns will probably beat the Rams. KC should get that win. God, man, it's hard because I think Jacksonville should get that win. It's just tough, man, because there aren't a lot of opportunities for the Chiefs to lose down the stretch unless a team just, you know, any given Sunday is them, which is certainly possible, but, you know, I think less likely. Anyway, I do think it's possible that the Bengals could get the upset win, but I doubt it. I think I'm going to take the more likely to be realist there. So after week 13, if it does play out like this, KC would be in the #1 seed. I think the Ravens are on bye. Yeah, so they didn't play this week. KC would be #1, Jacksonville at 2, us at 3, Baltimore at 4. All of us at 9 and 3 though. So obviously still very tight there up at the top. Let's go ahead and move to week 14. Steelers, that should be a win for the Steelers. Let's go Falcons, I guess. We'll give them the edge. They're at home. They're the team that's currently in the playoffs. Let's give the Bengals an upset win at home. That pushes the Texans. This is actually one of the reasons why I like it though too, is because it changes things after every single game. This one's tough. The Browns are at home. I mean, DTR is currently in the concussion protocol, although I would think he'd likely be back for this game. Not sure it super matters, but I'll give the edge to the Browns, partly because I want that to happen. So that way the Jags take another loss and then we can jump them in the rankings. But I do think this one could go either way, although I will give them the edge being the home team as well. I think the Texans should beat the Jets. Unfortunately, Ravens should get that win coming out of their bye. Lions, Saints. Let's give the Raiders a win at home over the Vikings. Niners should beat the Seahawks. Chiefs should beat the Bills. I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm expecting them to beat the Bills. We'll take the Broncos over the Chargers. They just find ways to lose. This one's tough. I've been giving the Cowboys the split though, because the Eagles did win when the Cowboys when the Eagles were at home. I'm going to give the Cowboys the split. We'll take Green Bay over them, and obviously I think the Dolphins are going to win over the Titans in Miami. So as you can see, that changes things up a bit. KC then takes the #1 seed. us at the number 2 with Baltimore at the number 3 seed. And this is with the top 3 seeds now having 10 wins and Jacksonville only having 9 and now having 4 losses. So, and at this point going into week 15, I think we should be done with all the byes. So there shouldn't be any more teams not playing, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go ahead and move on to that week 15. We'll give the Raiders at home over the Chargers because the Chargers are fucking choke artists. I've said this for a while, man. Look, Justin Herbert's a good quarterback. I mean, let's be clear that the organization for the Chargers has some issues too, so that's hampering them. But Justin Herbert, as great of a quarterback as he is, I think that he's just Phillip Rivers 2.0, and Phillip Rivers never won anything of consequence. He put up all kinds of fucking numbers, but never won anything of consequence, and one of the biggest reasons for that is I think he's a huge choke artist. Phillip Rivers, I had a nickname, I do have a nickname for Phillip Rivers. The reason why I say had is because he doesn't play anymore, but Phillip Quivers. I've always called him Phillip Quivers because he always chokes in the biggest moments, man. He's such a pussy. And I don't think Herbert is much of as a pussy as Phillip Rivers, was. But I do think that he just folds under, in the biggest moments and he just can't win. And I just don't think he has the clutch genes. So anyway, Falcons should beat the Panthers. This one's tough. You know what? Let's give it to the Vikings. I think Browns at home. Lions at home. Let's give it to the Colts at home. Dolphins will beat the Jets again at home. Texans should beat the Titans. I mean, KC's going to beat the Patriots. I mean, they'll lose that one. Let's say Jacksonville gets the upset, though, here over the Ravens. That's an opportunity for the Ravens to lose. So let's take that one. I think the Eagles... I think the Cowboys are going to get that upset. But at the same time, this one, honestly, I think could go either way. I mean, you could also say that it's the Bills. Bills could take that one, even though their defense has been... First of all, their defense has been getting worn out, not just from the injuries, but just in general. And, that defense actually in the past few weeks has been letting up more than they have earlier on in the part of the season, in the early part of the season. I feel like they're just starting to crack, not just, and it has a lot to do with the injuries, but they're just getting worn out too. But you could say it's a home game for them and their offense is looking a lot better. Plus the Cowboys have a hard time winning on the road against good teams. They kind of have that same stigma as the Dolphins, but we'll give the upset there. But if I'm being fair, I think that one could go either way. But whatever, either way. I mean, let's edge the Rams, I guess. 49ers over Cardinals. Let's take Saints, and then we'll give it to the Packers, I guess, there. So that would then have the Chiefs at the number 1 seed, Dolphins and the number 2 seed, with the Browns then jumping up into the 3rd seed, Jacksonville with the 4th seed, because they would overtake the Ravens. That would be interesting, which would drop them to the 5th seed. That would be fascinating. It does also show you, based on how they have it here, it does show you what the matchups would be. So we would be taking on the Steelers if it ended just like this. But anyway, so then that would have the Dolphins and the Chiefs as the only 11-win teams in the conference at that point. Okay, so, and obviously part of the reason why you do this every week is because it's hard to predict, which games are actually going to be upsets, and it's really just hard to predict games in general. Let's see. So for this next slate, let's go. I mean, this one doesn't really even matter to us. Let's just edge the Rams, I guess, at home. Steelers, we'll say, over the Bengals. I do think the Bills will get the win there over the Chargers. This one's tough. I think they have the better defense, the Browns do, but I don't know. Let's edge the Texans, I guess, at home. That does change some things up again, though, and puts the Ravens back up into the top mix. And, you know, obviously division. I think Commanders can get the win. Jets, man, I just think they're fucking... I just think that... I mean, you know what? Fuck it. We'll give it to the Jets. The Commanders are having a tough time in their own right, and it'll be a home game for them. Fuck it. We'll give it to them. I don't know. I mean, Titans, I guess, whatever. Colts. Green Bay. This is a tough one. This one could go either way, but let's edge the Niners at home. And I also would want that to be the case because then, I mean, look at how it shakes things up. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy. I think the Eagles should get that win. Unfortunately, I think the Chiefs, Broncos. I do think the Dolphins are going to beat the Cowboys in Miami. Let's take Cardinals, Jags, and Lions. So there you have it. So after week 16, it would be KC number 1, Dolphins number 2, both of us being 12-3, the only 12-win teams so far to this point. Jacksonville, the 3rd seed at 11-4. Steelers with the 4th seed, though, at 10-5, with Baltimore being the 7th seed at 10-5, and all because all these teams are now 10-5, and then obviously with tiebreakers. So in this case, tiebreakers, as you can see, it gets crazy, bro, right? It gets crazy. But this stuff is important to look at when it comes to seeding, So it is one of the reasons why I actually do like this one, and I may go with this one going forward. But anyway, okay, so let's go into week 17. So obviously, I'm trying to find a scenario, first and foremost, in which the Dolphins can get the number 1 seed. So we're going to take the upset over the Ravens. The Browns should beat the Jets. This one's tough. We'll edge the Cowboys, I guess, at home. Bills should beat the Patriots. Let's go Falcons. Let's go Colts, I guess. Jags, Texans. Let's go Vikings, Broncos, Chiefs. I wish they fucking had Joe Burrow, damn it. Steelers, Niners. Let's go Saints, Eagles, and Rams. KC would still be ahead of us with the number 1 seed. Miami at 13-3, though, with the number 2. Jacksonville with the 3rd. Pittsburgh at 4th. It's funny because, like I said, and part of why you do this every week is because it just changes. You know what I'm saying? It changes week in and week out based off of the actual results. And you can do your best to fucking, predict it, but it's super hard. Anyway, Houston with the 5th seed. Baltimore would then drop out of the playoffs altogether in this case, with the Colts taking on that 7th seed. Crazy, right? So let's real quick, just while we're here, let's go ahead and say that the Ravens do beat us, because that is a very likely situation. Miami would drop to the 3rd seed in this case, and Baltimore would move up to the 7th seed over the Colts. So that's how it would change. Week 18 we'll take, I don't know, Cardinals, I guess. Ravens should get that dub. Tampa, let's say Browns. Lions, Green Bay, Texans, Chiefs, Cowboys, Jacksonville, Niners, Eagles, Saints. I'm going to give the fucking Patriots one just because I want to give them a win. I do think the Dolphins will beat the Bills at the end of the season, and we'll give the Raiders the edge. So if that's week 18 and that's how you have it, then it ends up with, well, I mean, that would be unfortunate because, that's, wait. Hold on a second. Oh, shit, my bad, because I didn't put that back to the Dolphins. So I was looking. So, again, though, even in this case, like I said, even if the Dolphins do end up beating the Ravens, I mean, if they lose to the Ravens, then obviously it would shake everything up like that. It would be Jacksonville at the 2, Miami at 3, Cleveland at 4, Baltimore at 5, Houston at 6, Pittsburgh at 7. But if Miami gets that win, then Miami would be 2, Jacksonville 3, Cleveland 4, Houston 5, Baltimore 6, Steelers 7. And then here, But yeah, and so even if the Dolphins win out again, it still remains the case that, you know, KC's got to lose one more game. If KC, bottom line is if KC doesn't lose at least one more game, then the Dolphins don't have a chance. If KC wins out, the Dolphins don't have a chance at being anything higher than the 2 seed. If KC loses another game somewhere, let's just say they somehow manage to lose to the Chargers at the end of the season and the Dolphins do win out. Then there you go. The Dolphins can get the number 1 seed. Or if they drop a game anywhere throughout the season the rest of the way, then the Dolphins have an opportunity to get the number 1 seed. If the Dolphins lose though and don't win, but they also have to win out. So KC has to drop 1 game. The Dolphins have to win out. If the Dolphins lose a game, then KC has to lose 2 games. So the Dolphins have to absolutely win out to get the number 1 seed. Otherwise, the best that it can get is the number 1 or the number 2 seed, excuse me. So, but either way, and that's the thing though, right? And that's why we look at these playoff predictors each and every week. One, so you can see how things actually shape up and change the standings and the projections going forward, but also too because you know, it's fascinating to see the different scenarios that play out, you know. And in this case, like I said, I mean, the Chiefs have to lose at least 1 game with the Dolphins to win out. Now it's possible, but that's going to be super tough. Especially with that last 3-game stretch for us and the slate of games that the Chiefs have down the stretch. You know what I'm saying? So, but at this point, we're definitely looking at it as the Dolphins are no matter what going to get, I think no matter what going to get the top 4 seeds because they're going to win the division. I don't see the Bills winning out. You know, just like it's super tough and improbable to have the Dolphins win out as well as the Chiefs lose 1 game. I mean, it's possible, but the chances aren't super high, at least not right now, unless, you know, the Chiefs lose next week or maybe the Bills do beat the Chiefs, right? That is certainly possible, you know, but it's not probable. Real quick, I guess let's go ahead and just take a look at that situation. So where is it? Where be week 14. Let's say the Bills do get the win over KC. So hold on, but KC does beat the Chargers at the end of the season. And then let's say, well, I mean, if we lose to Baltimore, then they would jump us, and then we would obviously go down to the 3 seed. And then they would go to the number 1 seed. So obviously still need to win out. But, you know, maybe the Bills get that win. I don't know. Look, it's super tough. I don't think the Bills are going to win out, though, either way. So I don't think that there's really much. And I do think that odds are the Dolphins will have the division clinched by Christmas because I expect us to win our next 3 and be 11-3 before we hit that last 3-game stretch of tough games. And I do think that the Bills will lose at least 1 of the next 2 games that they have coming out of the bye, being the Chiefs or the Cowboys. But you never know, right? You never know. But I do think the Dolphins will at least win the division, so they'll be in the top 4 seeds. They'll have at least 1 home playoff game, and they can get at least the number 2 seed, if not potentially still the number 1 seed. So those options are still available to the Miami Dolphins. We obviously just gotta have to wait and see how things play out down the stretch, right? So Bills are on a bye this week. The rest of the teams, I think, should be playing for the rest of the season. I don't think any of the teams that are ahead of us and, you know, in the mix for the playoffs ahead of us. Chiefs already had their bye for sure. I don't know if the Jags or the Ravens have had theirs. But anyway, whatever. We only got a couple more weeks until all the buys are done anyway, so we'll keep an eye on all of that. Dolphins are overall getting pretty healthy too. Obviously just lost Jalen Phillips, but did bring in Jason Pierre-Paul to kind of round that back out, and I think we'll be just fine with that, and Van Ginkel and Agba being in the mix and maybe getting some more time as well too. So I'm not super worried about the defense, and I think the defense is going to continue to prove that they are championship caliber down the stretch. because I do think that they will get better and better, at least so far as their statistics will continue to improve week in, week out, because I think week in and week out they will play championship caliber and will help us stay in the games against those tough teams down the stretch. And I do think that the offense will continue to get things figured out. I think that they will start to cut back on their turnovers while the defense starts to get more. We will get guys back healthy. Hopefully Armstead will be back this week again, because he did leave this past week with a quad injury. But it did seem like he could have come back in. Hopefully we'll have Achane back. We'll see when Rob Hunt and Rob Jones come back. But I do expect that offensive line to continue to get more healthy and get guys back as well. So, and I do like what Mike McDaniel is doing with balancing out, the injuries and stuff like that, keeping us healthy. And like I said, honestly, for the next 3 games, keep guys out as long as they need to. I would say that, you really got to start playing guys no matter what, as long as they're healthy enough once we get to that Cowboys game. But anyway, so that's going to wrap it up for me. Things are looking really good for the Miami Dolphins going down this stretch. So we'll keep an eye on it, and obviously we'll do this each and every week in order to see how things play out after the games actually do end up wrapping up. It'll continue to be a Tuesday thing because obviously that'll be after each week concludes. So with that, guys, keep your heads up. Like I said, it's looking bright and beautiful for the Miami Dolphins. We should get the division clinched up, I would think, by Christmas or soon thereafter, if not by Christmas. Looking to get a AFC Championship, a playoff berth, and a home field advantage for at least one game. And we are still in the mix for at least the number 2 seed, if not the number 1 seed as well, depending on whether or not some team can catch the Chiefs slipping down the stretch. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here, guys. We'll see you guys soon. And fins up, baby. Every day, all day.
7-7. Miami wins it.